All right. The last step is your absolute orientation. And how do we do this is, first of all, you need to get, this is where you're going to put in your actual ground control that we collected the GPS information, the X, Y, and Z values, and where you're going to put on your glasses to digitize where those ground controls are on the ground. Now, you need also where you're going to get that ground control information. Double click on the in your Windows Explorer file system, double click on control data. There is a folder called Photos 61, 62. It's Photos 61 and 62. Double click on that. That's the control file. We're not going to open that. Let's go back. So we need to get some diagrams of where is the control point for Photos 61 and 62. You see where we have control points, the diagrams? Double click on that and go down the list. These were past students who already passed through a program, graduated, but we're looking for 61, 62 on this one, Nathan. 61, 62, double click on that, and there's a Word file or a PDF file. We open the PDF file, and the PDF file is shown here. Okay, so make it big. This is your PDF file, and it gives you all of the points, 6 ground control points. It's X, Y, and Z, X column, Y column, and Z column. This is already inputted into your control file that you defined at the beginning of the project. But what's important in this diagram is where points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are located. You have to digitize where those points are based upon this diagram. And we zoom in. Let's look at, I'll just do point number 1. So point number 1 is this one here. It's on the parking lot. It's not a parking lot again. It's the new building, but the previous parking lot. And that's where it is. Students coordinated this corner. Now, we know where it is on the photograph. We know these features. And that's the intent of these diagrams. So there is point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, point number 4, point number 5, and then lastly point number 6. Okay? So let's just do point number 1. Point number 1. It's this corner here. Let's minimize this. Point number 1, this is our baseball field. So use the normal mouse, zoom in. And the orientation is a bit it's oriented to to real world based upon the coordinate system we defined. And point number 1 is this corner here. All right, remember, you're not going to move it around with the hole-in-one stationary and move it around again. It's done. That's it. And from your relative orientation, all we're gonna do is use the motion mouse, this little rotating wheel here, move it, you see, move it, and it actually moves accordingly. Okay, so rotating like that. Okay, and we're gonna digitize where it is. So if I move it off a bit using the motion mouse, this one here, see, I'm going to digitize, make that red cross here on point number 1. So move it around, make sure it's on that point. When it's on the point, move it there, and then press number 2 again in the motion mouse, saying you're telling the computer that's where the ground coordinate is located. All right. Now, before all of that, you're supposed to do is press the AO. All right. So first of all, press AO. And these are all of the points. So we move it, all right, we move it to the point, and then you press number 2 and it will populate the first one. Make sure it's checked. All right, it's checked, it's blue. Press number 2, and it's measured. All right, once it's measured, we can go back if we want to change it and measure it again. Go back there, press it, and it takes you to point number 2. So you turn to blue, and now we're going to do all the other control points And once we're done, then it's going to compute the RMS. You're going to save that monitor, that screen, that window, and put it in a report. And lastly, once you do all of that, that's when you're going to have a coordinate system, and you can start. You're going to have a 3D model. You put on your glasses when you're doing this thing. The absolute orientation you're supposed to put on your glasses to make sure that my floating point is on the ground itself, or on the feature that I have the X, Y, and Z value. And the only manipulation you're going to have is moving it in the X and the Y direction. This is your Z wheel. Once you do all of that, then you apply it and save it, and then you start digitizing or start drawing features. There are things like going to CAD menu, and you can add features, draw features, explore some of these. The handout gives you details about how you draw features, blind features. Okay.